What if the very pain that you've been avoiding is the exact thing that you need to unlock your power? What if everything that you've been taught about success, about happiness, and about what it means to be a man was just noise, designed to keep you from ever stepping into your true purpose? Well, today's guest is here to destroy that noise and replace it with truth. Today, I had an amazing conversation with Rick Walker, who's not your average entrepreneur or author or leader. He's actually built companies with hundreds and hundreds of employees. He's raised billions in capital, and he's helped create thousands of jobs and coached executives, billionaires, and warriors alike. But beyond this resume, Rick is a man on a mission. He's on a mission to help men unlock and reclaim their minds, their power, and actually build a life of real meaning. He's the author of an upcoming book, 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. And today we are going to go through all those 9 steps, and we're gonna tap into Rick's wisdom and his years studying ancient philosophy, elite leadership, and high performance psychology to answer that one question: what does it take to become a man that you're born to be? So I want you to enjoy this episode. It's not just a conversation. We truly are giving you a call to arms, giving you the steps to truly live a life with real meaning. So again, I'm really excited for this conversation. It was an amazing conversation. Please make sure you actually either subscribe to the channel, subscribe to this podcast, and leave a review if any of those 9 steps actually resonated with you. And if you are going to step up and take these 9 steps to unlock your mind, your happiness, and your power. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Welcome to the Over 40 Alpha Podcast with your host, Funk Roberts.
Hey, welcome to this episode of the Over 40 Alpha Podcast. Today is a guest that I actually have a ton of respect for. He's a real warrior scholar and battle scars and brain mat power to prove it. But today we have Rick Walker, who's the author of an upcoming book, 9 Steps to Building a Life of Meaning, How to Unlock Your Mind, Happiness, Power, and Your Enemy Demise. And Rick actually has built a 400 employee company. He scaled a nonprofit into 53 countries. He brought in $5 billion in capital, create 5,000 jobs, and he still makes time to wake up at 3 a.m. As a father, as a husband, as a leader. This is the Over 40 Alpha at its finest. And he's also interviewed billionaires. He's interviewed politicians, philosophers, warriors, and he's sitting down with you and I today to talk and unpack how to live with purpose, power, and meaning, specifically for us guys in this chaotic world. Rick, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks so much for blessing me by having me here. I'm so excited about today's conversation.
Yeah, so let's talk about your origin story. What was that journey to getting to where you are today? I mean, I threw a couple of things up there, but maybe taking us through that journey on how we got to these 9 steps.
Yeah. Well, Funk, I grew up south of here. So I'm in Houston today. That's where I live. And I grew up down in South Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas, which is close to the Mexican border. Grew up in the poverty of a 2-bedroom house. My dad was out of work a good portion of our growing up. And so I remember going on the weekends with him. We'd go paint flagpoles or do whatever kind of odd jobs we could to be able to pay the bills. My mom always worked 2.5 full-time jobs. And it was just always a struggle. And so I realized when I went to college that I didn't want to have that sort of financial struggle. I never had a vision of what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew what I didn't want. And I found that sometimes working your way in the opposite of what you know you don't want will at least get you some energy to go try some stuff and at least get out there. It's better than not doing anything at all. And so that's really where I found myself. My junior year of college, I decided to start a business in Corpus Christi while going to school in Oklahoma City. So this is a 9-hour difference drive time. And so I would go to classes Monday through Thursday. Thursday night, I would drive the 9 hours back to Corpus Christi. I'd see clients on Fridays. I would train staff on Saturdays. Then I would drive back the 9 hours. So this is 18 hours of driving every week. And I did that for 18 months just to get the business off the ground. And so over time, by the time I was 26, we'd gotten up to 400 employees. I was actually able to hire my dad away from another company. So he helped me sort of bring that to the next level about 3 years after I started. And then at the same time, I started another company. We scaled into 6 states. And then I eventually became chairman of a nonprofit, was able to scale that into 53 countries and about 2,300 team members over about a decade period. So this is all happening somewhat simultaneously in my 20s and in my early 30s. And so that really gave me a vision of what could be possible, that the amount of work, the amount of responsibility, even a young man could take on. And that sort of began to be a hallmark of what I wanted to do and the sort of messaging that I wanted to propagate.
So that's impressive. What were those companies? You said the first company, second company. What were they?
Yeah, the first company was just doing flat fee maintenance and management of commercial real estate. So this is like schools and banks. So basically, I started it by going door to door, saying, "Hey, look, like you're paying all these vendors, your HVAC vendors, your cleaning vendors, your electrical vendors. Like, I'll give you one flat fee. You're gonna pay me the same thing every month, and I'm gonna take care of everything that breaks. The toilet breaks, I'm gonna replace the toilet. HVAC breaks, I'm gonna take care of that." And so that's the way that we started. And then the other company that I started, that I got into 6 states. I tell the story in my book about how I gave away 100% of this company, but this eventually became a federal contracting business, and it specialized in sort of fire, life safety, very difficult real estate related project management. So it's like things that have a safety issue, like elevators and high rise work, things like that for the federal government.
Wow.
And so those were those two businesses, and currently I'm in the private equity space of the commercial real estate business. So we own and operate our own buildings and funds.
Wow. Okay. So I want to kind of talk to your father because he must have been he must have rubbed off on you. And like, how did your father influence you in regards to you doing what you're doing? Was it the hard work? Was it, what were the things that you kind of took from him that propelled you into, in your 20s and 30s, building these two massive companies, like insanely massive companies?
Yeah, yeah. So my dad were more like friends than sort of father-son relationship. And so I remember one summer, basically neither of us had a job. Neither of us had a job. And we were trying to figure out something that we knew. And my dad loved watches, and I sort of picked up a love of watches from him. And we decided that we would go around to these yard sales and we would just ask if they had any old broken watches, because we knew that the things that people inherited, they didn't really remember about a lot of times. And so when they're having a garage sale, they would never remember that, hey, Aunt Judy left me these old broken watches, and they probably never even looked up to see what they were worth. They probably just saw them in a box one time and just threw them up on a shelf. And so we would go around to these garage sales and we just ask them, hey, do you have any old broken jewelry, old broken watches? And they'd always tell you no. And then about a minute or two later, they say, oh yeah, we do have this. Would you bring it out? And so we had the first looked opportunity at these things. And so what we realized is we could take these watches that we had a little bit of knowledge about, but the seller had almost no knowledge about, because they didn't earn it. They didn't really respect what they have because they never earned it. And we'd be able to take them, polish them up a little bit, and we'd be able to take them 2 or 3 streets down to a collector that knew their true value, and we would be able to sell it for a significantly higher value. So this began what we considered a business of arbitrage, doing minimal refinement and taking these things into other markets. And we do the same thing in the commercial real estate business, but we also do the same thing with ideas. We can take them from one domain to another domain and be able to maximize their utility for us.
Wow. So this was were you like, how old were you during this time? Were we talking well, you didn't have a job. So how old were you?
Yeah, so I was probably 15, 16
Okay, wow.
when we were doing that. Yeah.
So the entrepreneur spirit was embedded in you from you and your father actually creating this arbitrage.
Yeah. And he was really he's still alive. And we talk every couple of days, have a great relationship. But his dad drank himself to death, and so did his dad and his dad. So he's sort of the fourth generation. The other three generations drank themselves to death.
Right.
And my dad was finally the guy that said, I can't handle it. My bloodline can't handle it, so I'm just going to stop. And so that was maybe one of the biggest examples that I saw there of a man willing to stand up for his kids. We never even spoke about it, Funk. We never even spoke about that. But you just kind of know, like, that he took that one step, and sort of that's sort of the archetype example that he gave to me. That, hey, you can stop all the curses, all the generational curses now if you just set your mind to doing it.
Yeah, that's a powerful message. Not even a message that he told you. He just showed you, and you picked that up. And that is so true. A lot of times we always talk, 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 but as men, we don't actually step up and take that action to do those hard things, because that's very hard to stop. Generational, alcoholism. I guess that if you drank yourself to death, your grandfather, etc. So that's amazing, and I can see how that has been carried on to you. So let's dive in a little bit on like your nine. What brought you to these nine steps? Like what you talked about business and all of that, but what was that kind of breaking point?
Yeah. So the idea that there are certain principles that govern how reality works, whether it be how we deal with each other as humans, how we deal with business, how we approach different areas of our life, whether it be philosophy or religion, that these are all sort of interrelated. I begin to see these themes, and after I was doing these things, I was we were doing the watches when I was 15, 16 years old. I'm 46 now, so this is 30 years ago. But I started looking at it after about 25 years of doing these sorts of things, and after scaling up these organizations, and I realized, well, maybe I have something to give back, right? There's maybe I've learned some lessons, and so I just started writing down the lessons that I learned, and I decided that I wanted to write a book. And so I thought, well, how am I going to prepare for this? I'm not an academic. I'm not a theoretician. I'm just a doer, right? I'm like I've got a wrench. I've got, I can go door to door. I can take some punishment. And that's all I've got to offer. And
Awesome.
so I thought, well, let me do some studying. And so I read about 1,000 books, a little over 1,000 books, across a wide variety of disciplines. And I sat down with 100 of some of the most successful, most powerful men in the world. Many of them in this very room. Like I've had the Secret Service in this room a number of times, to give you an idea about what sort of levels of power we're talking about. And I don't say that to brag, Funk. I'm just saying
No.
God's put me in touch with some people. I don't know why I've been in touch with them, but somehow but I couldn't waste the experience. And so I had to get all these lessons from all these different sources, these 100 powerful men, these 1,000 books, these 25 years of doing just some crazy things at the same time. And I want to compact them and give them like a density that no one's ever gotten. And so what I want to try to do is create one book that gives you the density of all of those things at the same time and gets rid of all the fluff. And I decided
Right.
like what's not in the book is just as important as what's in the book. And so when I began to really put my head into it, and I worked on this thing for 2 years, I actually took a year away from my businesses to focus on this. I distilled everything into 9 steps to build a life of meaning. And these all, by the way, also encompass how to unlock your mind, happiness, power, and even how to defeat enemies. Your enemy's demise is all sort of pent up in these lessons. That's how dense the principles are.
Okay, so let's talk about unlocking your mind. Like we talk about meaning, right? But a lot of people don't even know what that means. I mean, it's a word, the word meaning, they don't really know what that means for them. And then I don't know if that starts from the mind or that starts from the heart or that just starts from purpose. But what when you say unlocking, a life of meaning, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so meaning has to do with duration, with indestructibility. And so, for instance, I use this working definition as a definition for wisdom. So the wisest mind looks into the most distant future for the most valued reward that it can purchase with the currency of the present. So I'm gonna repeat that one more time because there's probably
Yeah,
someone that wants to write that down.
yeah,
The wisest mind looks into the most distant future for the most valuable reward that it can purchase with the currency of the present. And so the idea that the most distant future also contains the most valuable reward is really important in understanding meaning because our meaning, if it's going to be true, enduring meaning, and we often will use purpose and relevance, simultaneous with meaning, those all have to do with kind of durability. Like if no one remembers who I was 10 years after I'm dead, I probably didn't have a very meaningful life. I didn't have very much of an impact on other people. But if I can instill enduring principles in others, very much like you're doing on your podcast and your other work in your groups, if we can just instill meaning and get some purpose into someone, we have this chance of this idea of this meaning propagating to other people, and there's at least a chance, there's just a hope of durability. And so I discovered that there's this corroboration between indestructibility and meaning. That if you cannot attach yourself, if you cannot direct your life to something that's indestructible, in the end, you'll never have relevance. You'll never have meaning. You may think that you have relevance. The media mob may say that you have relevance. The subscribers may say you have relevance, but you're not really going to have relevance. And we can talk about that here a little bit later on about how to define, what a life of relevance looks like.
Yeah.
But in the end, you have to attach what you're working towards with something that's indestructible in nature, and that's very difficult to do unless your priorities are right, unless your mind's right. And so you got to get your mind focused on the furthest out, most valuable reward that you could possibly imagine, not on something that's next week or next year. It's got to be long term.
Okay, so so I like that. When you say durability, do you mean the ability to endure during that process? So like, let's say I've figured out what that meaning is, or that future cast, right? I know exactly what that is. And so what I'm buying with today's currency is the ability to be durable throughout that journey. Is that what that means? Like, so that I can get through after month, year after year, through ups and downs and everything that keeps me focused on that future meaning or purpose.
Yeah. So it's that and one other thing. It's a durability, right? If you have like a goal, a thing that you're working towards that's just going to fade away, like you're not going to be very motivated, right? You're not going to be very durable in that endeavor. Yeah. Um, but if we also understand that the thing itself, the thing that you point your life at, if the thing that you point your life at has the chance that it will stand forever, that it
Right.
will stand forever, then we have hope of relevance. And so let me give you an example. And I'm gonna use C.S. Lewis a few times probably throughout our conversation. Just seems to be how these things are going these days. And he said there's two ways that you can look at another man. You can see that man and see that he's a body that happens to have a soul, or you could look at him and say that he's a soul that just happens to have a body. Like either the body's primary or the soul is primary. Which is it? Well, we all know that the body eventually dies.
Yeah.
But the soul, many believe that the soul lives forever. And so if I treat my fellow man like he's a soul primarily, and I give him the dignity, the respect, and I give him the value and the worth that I would give a soul, not just a body that's going to be dead in 50 years, I have at least the hope that what I'm working on, like the value that I give to that man, can endure forever.
Right.
And so that's just sort of an example of us focusing on something that endures forever. Obviously, if you're a man of faith, obviously you believe that God is forever. That's sort of definitionally with God. But you could probably also build a life around this idea of enduring, focusing life on love and truth and beauty, and just trying to get these ideas and these concepts again propagated sort of out in the world, and hope that through these forever living souls that your messaging carries on in one way, shape, or form for a very long, relevant time. But yeah, you've got to find something, and that's sort of the search that all men have to embark on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a difficult one for some people, because it's very difficult to look so far when there's so many things that kind of blind us on a daily basis, right? There's so many things on our phones and everything else that are kind of blinding us, the media and everything else. And so it's very difficult to weed through everything and say, oh yeah, that's where I want to get to, because you're so focused on everything that's happening today in your life, at work, at kids, your health, all of these things, that it makes it very difficult. So it's good to have something where it kind of makes you sit down and think about, where you want to go. And I guess that starts with the mind, right? Unlocking that mind and searching through the mind.
Yeah. It's sort of encompassing more out of your vision. Don't just stay focused on yourself. Stay focused on your job and your career, that kind of stuff. Like look out at other people. Like look at the rest of the world. The world's bigger than you are.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I'm not sure if that is my vision, but I think when I moved towards helping men over 40, 50, 60, 70 and beyond, like when I moved towards that vision and just really focusing on doing everything I can to help these men transform and become better men and, throughout their whole journey, I feel a peace. I don't know if that's going to be meaningful, but some people say, I've changed their lives and that sort of thing, but I'm not really doing it for that. I'm just doing it because I feel like that's the purpose. And I feel joy and love when I do it. And when I see these guys, sending me a message or showing their before and afters, I know that that's literally one of the key things that I need to be doing pretty much for the rest of my life, I think. But again, we'll see. What So why don't you take us down the 9 steps? You can go high level, obviously. The book is going to give us everything. I think step one is like a call to arms, or like a call to arms. Is that what that is?
Yeah. So there's a great. Now you're in Toronto today.
I'm in Toronto, beautiful Toronto. Yes.
Okay. There's a professor of Buddhist psychology there named Dr. John Vervaeke,
Okay.
who wrote a great book and has a great lecture series on YouTube called The Meaning Crisis. This is for men. He writes about men. This is his work. He studies men that are generally sort of 25 to 45, maybe 25 to 55, somewhere in there, that just don't have a purpose. They don't have a vision of what they want to do with their lives. And so a lot of guys will look around, they'll copycat and say, Funk illustrates physically. I'm gonna be like that, and they're just copycatting. Rick talks about some great things. I want to replicate how he talks, that sort of thing. And so, we've never really had a positive vision. Like, we're always that man who sort of runs away from the thing that we don't want, right? Like I ran away from the poverty that I grew up in. And so I was looking at that, and coming from a business background, we're always taught to kind of set the vision, set the mission statement, build up the objectives and the tactics and the strategies to be able to accomplish that. But what Dr. Vicky talks about is like there's on like this whole generation of men, they don't have a vision, a positive vision of what they want out of life. And so they just sort of meander. Like, and a lot of these men, the younger that you get into that age range, they don't, they're not interested in trying to ask a girl out. They're not interested in marriage. They're interested in video games. Some of them aren't even interested in work. And so if you don't have an interest in love or responsibility or taking care of people, how do you break that person out? And keep in mind, I'm not a theoretician. I'm not an academic. I'm just sort of a doer,
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, like, what are the principles? Like, what needs to happen? What needs to happen? And I came across this idea that we have sort of in philosophy. So the purpose of light is to invade the darkness. That's the whole purpose of light. And so therefore the purpose of good is to invade the evil. And if you consider yourself a good man, or at least a man that wants to be a good man, your purpose therefore should be able to invade the evil that you see around you, and so, in a one way or another, resurrect the treachery that's been assaulting even the most innocent people around you. It's that sex trafficking website that doesn't respect minors. It's that drug, that fentanyl that's in our school system that the kids don't have a chance of fighting against. It's that alcoholism that's pervasive throughout your family that you can't get rid of, but you need to. It's those sort of manifest evils that we all see around us and we ignore. And so my first chapter, the first step, is I want you to think about that thing that breaks your heart. And that thing that breaks your heart, if you don't have a positive vision of what you need to do, you by definition, by being a man who supposedly is made in the image of God, you sort of this divine ethos about you, you're called to invade the evil if you ever want to be a good man. Just like the light is always invading the darkness, if it ever wants to propagate light, actually be light. The only way to be good is invade the evil. And so my step one is you have to choose one worthy enemy. That's the only way you're going to get these men to move. You got to choose one evil, worthy enemy, and you got to attack it with all you can, because that's sort of the first step we got to get. If these guys don't have a positive vision of what's possible with their lives, they've never seen wealth, they've never seen success. Like, you got to get an enemy to fight, and that enemy has to just devastate them. And it's even better if it's an enemy that devastates. If they pick an enemy that devastates the most vulnerable people around them, the children, the orphans, the widows, people that are impoverished. It's even better. And I don't know why this is, Funk, but it seems like you get divine help the more desperate people that you help in your life. You get these divine resources just sort of flood in. People come to your aid, people back you up, and you begin to form and mobilize a team in those sorts of efforts that you don't get if it's a selfish endeavor.
Yeah, I know that totally makes sense. Choosing an enemy, that's actually one of our tribe secrets in our my 27 tribe secrets when we're building a tribe, a cult, let's say, a good one, is having that common enemy, right? Having that common enemy that you're fighting against, but keeping that enemy close, because that's going to continue to help you stay focused on what the mission is. So yeah, I love that. So let's move on to the next step. After we've chosen that enemy, where are we at?
So you've got to figure out a way to point your life at something. This is so we've now gotten a little bit of energy. We have a reason to develop some competency. By the way, in the end, your competency plus your integrity equal your identity. Your competency plus your integrity equal your become your identity. And so as we had some iterations, we have some reps in. We're building our competency little by little. We need to point ourselves at something that's higher than us. Whether maybe it's fighting that evil website. Maybe it's actually going after something good. We find something on the other side of that after we tried some stuff that's actually good. And so step number 2 is aiming low is the only sin. That's the only way you're gonna screw up your life is you aim low. You aim too low. You think about trying to do something for yourself rather than do something for others. You're thinking a year down the line or even 20 years down the line at the pension you may earn if you don't mess up your job. It's these low aims that just kill us. And this is actually one of the things that I think Bruce Lee wrote about in, I think it's Striking Thoughts is his book. But aiming low is the only crime. Like it's a crime against yourself because you misdirect the one asset that you actually have. And so we want to aim high. And the way that we aim high, and this has to do with step 3 as well, and I'll sort of merge this in there. The way that we aim high is the inversion of the same way that we get wisdom. Remember, wisdom, the wisest mind looks into the most distant future for the most valuable reward that he can purchase the currency of the present. The wisest mind also, whenever he's aiming himself high, he also aims himself back. So he's not reading, he's not studying the philosophies of the last 5 years or 10 years. He's looking and reading the source text, the things that created all these things a matter of thousands of years ago, and is able to see that these are the great ideas that stood the test of time. These are the relevant ideas. These are the indestructible ideas. These are the meaningful ideas. And so what I like to say is that the older the sage, the quicker the solution. The older the sage, the quicker the solution.
Right.
You got to go back in order to aim high.
Okay.
And so in that furthest distance of history, like I was reading the Tao Te Ching this morning. It just has epic wisdom. It's way older than the Bible.
Right.
But from that we get step 3, which is pick a master or one will be thrust upon you.
Okay.
Pick a master or one will be thrust upon you. This is where we begin to get this idea that the purpose of the present, right? You've already lost yesterday and all you have is a hope for tomorrow. But the purpose of the present is to take all the lessons of the most distant past and aim them at the most valuable reward in the most distant future. Like that's how a proper man lives properly in the present moment.
Okay. Okay, I love that. So I like to pick a mentor or one will be thrust upon you. Is the one that will be thrust upon you that negative one? Like the one that you just kind of like lean into, probably your own will, your own self, as opposed to getting someone who's pick a mentor who's done it, who's been there, who's kind of, who you can look to, who will keep and guide you to where you want to go, as opposed to yourself, because we're very self-destructive, and when we put ourselves on the throne, everything disintegrates. So
Yeah. And I think it's that way for a lot of us. I think also that if you don't pick a master or won't be thrust upon you, also has to do with the idea that we're weaker than we expect. And the way that we're weaker than we expect, we give ourselves too much benefit. We say that, we think like if we reject a God or an Allah, and we want to become our own God, but we're not strong enough to be our own gods. What we do things like this. We say, if God really existed, he would not allow this atrocity to happen, or he would not allow me to have gone through that. He would not have done this. Or if this was really a real world, this would happen. And so we invent this false God. And what we do is we put that false God up there and we blame that. We might call it a false reality of how we would have invented reality if we were God. And we put that up there and we let that take all the hits. And when things don't work out, we blame that thing because we're not man enough to take the blame ourselves. And that's sort of like one of the interesting things that I discovered from all these books and all these conversations is, man, we're worse off than we thought. You know,
100%.
we're way weaker than we thought. And we're not even willing to take the responsibility for our own life.
Wow, that's I just had Elliot Hulse, Elliot, big up and shout out to Elliot Hulse, Legacy Award winner. I just had him on my podcast, and we literally we talked about that. That was one thing we talked about: people using these false gods, right? False icons that they look to provide them with what have you, or become, and yeah, it's like you said, it's just a deflection. Well, there's no way God would want this to happen to me, but he's molding you to what he needs you to be. You have to let him. Anyway, we're not getting deep into that. Okay, so I love that. Let's move on to number 4. So once we've picked a mentor, pick someone who's going to guide us, what's next on the steps?
So there's always those things that we can't see. There's those things on the periphery, and step 4 and step 5 both have to do with this. We have to figure out how to get all the crap out of the way. And the way that I put it is we need a revelation. And what I discovered is that a revelation always requires a sacrifice. It's got to be a sacrifice of something that you want. So just to sort of give you an instant snapshot of what a sacrifice could look like right now, folk, like I'm concentrated 100% on you. Like I got windows around me, I got stuff happening outside, I got stuff happening behind me. But I'm concentrated. I'm literally sacrificing everything else to give my attention to you. That's what attention is. It's a sacrifice of everything else. And every day we're sacrificing our past for the hope of something in the future. But in our lives, there's things that we do. There's those foods that we eat. There's those activities that we engage in that need to be sacrificed. If we're able to get a glimpse of what's promised or what's actually out there. So it's not what you look at, it's what you don't look at that's really more important. And the step 4 really in the book, it covers some of the great sacrifices of history. Even, going back to Homer and the Iphigenian sacrifice, he basically had to sacrifice his daughter in order for them to set sail to go attack Troy. And so we talk about that and some of the meaning behind that. It's a little bit like that arbitraging of watches that I did with my dad growing up, that something's more valuable if you can take it a couple streets over. Learning about sacrifice, we can kind of take it out of the mythology and the history and apply it to our current life. It can get more meaning. That's what step 4 is. Trust that revelation always requires a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest struggles I think I see with a lot of guys, and is sacrificing on a smaller scale. Is just making those little sacrifices, cookies, or I don't want to work out, or guys want to take me out or whatever, and I got to sacrifice or don't sacrifice, going for a beer as opposed to working out. So yeah, I think that's really, really important on a daily basis to have that sacrifice. What would be number 5?
Number 5 is embrace the unknown. That life is lived on the edge of safety. Life is lived on the edge of safety. That if we're always operating in our comfort zone, we're never able to learn. We're never able to grow. We're never able to stretch ourselves. Like we're never going to the gym and getting those reps. We're not ever, adding that extra weight to the bar. We never really move forward. And there's this interesting book by Nicholas Nassim Taleb called The Black Swan, and he's a statistician. And what he talks about is sort of the Gaussian curve, kind of that, when you take all the, hundreds of data points and they average them out, and they show kind of a straight line or a curve there. And they say, well, this is how you project things. And he's like, well, that's cute and stuff. But whenever you do that, what you do is you miss out on sort of those outliers. You miss out on those black swans, those unknown things. And he argues in his book that it's the unknown unknowns that really move the world, that really trigger, have really relevant events. And so education is the same way, that if I ever want to learn something, I have to admit there's something that I don't know. Like I have to approach that unknown area and realize, like, hey, this is known, but if I step into this domain, this is an unknown for me. And I've got to be willing to be the student. I got to be willing to be humble in this area and not think that it's just the same thing as everything else. And so it's that unknown where all the growth happens. But like I said, the unknown is also where life is lived. You're never going to live in comfort. And so this is really where I get my mission. The more studying that I did, Funk, and I imagine your mission is very, very similar from all the videos I've watched. That my desire is I want to rip away the comfort now enslaving your potential. If your potential is on the other side of your comfort, you got to rip away the comfort. You got to rip away the slavery to be able to get there. And I suspect for the men that, I'm talking to, and probably the men that you're talking to too, brother. I mean, these guys know that they've got to reach their potential. It's just how they get there. They're looking for any way other than leaving the comfort zone.
Totally.
They're looking for, they're inventing their own route. I want to invent a world where there's never going to be any pain, there's never going to be any discomfort, there's never going to be any awkwardness, and I always have an excuse of why I failed. And they forget that our excuses are very rarely reasons.
Right.
They're very rarely reasons. And so this is where we find ourselves. We have to embrace the unknown if we're ever to grow, ever able to become anything. We have to throw off the comfort that's enslaving us.
Yeah, that's huge, and that's definitely something that I talk about and preach and talk about staying outside your comfort zone. In fact, the new wave of man, as I'm building, we do stay outside of our comfort zone. We understand that comfort is mediocrity, and that's not what we want. So we do have to push ourselves a little bit further outside of what we're used to, which means we have to sacrifice, etc. But I got a quick little story for you, talking about comfort. And talking about how just being human and even myself, a lot of times, but myself specifically, wanted to stay in a comfort zone. So I just, as I told you before, I just got my Harvard master's at Harvard University, and it was a 3-year course. And one of the 3-year course, 4 semesters, one of the semesters was digital marketing. Well, hey, I know digital marketing. I've been in digital marketing. So I took that because it was a comfort for me, right? I'm like, oh, I have a choice between these. I'm picking digital marketing because it's going to get me one step closer to where I want to go. I even got my certificate at digital marketing university, what have you, to get my certificate. So I was going into that course so like, oh, this is going to be easy, only to learn that it was all about SEO. Now, SEO is my work. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. I never, even in digital marketing, I didn't really study that much. It was my crutch. It was the unknown. It was the thing that I needed to embrace because, I had to embrace if I wanted to get through that semester. But it's so funny that, the man above has a funny way. Like, he's like, oh, you want digital marketing? Okay, let's give you SEO because we know that you hate that. We know that you're bad at it. And we know that no matter what certificate you get, you need to learn it. And so that was like, oh, okay, you know what? I got to embrace. I have to embrace. Right. So I even tried to sneakily do something. It was another lesson, and it was another reminder that, hey man, I have to stay outside my comfort zone. I have to embrace that I don't know everything, and that the weak stuff that I don't know, this is a time for me to learn it. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, well, I think that's right. I think that's right. That God knows that. He knows that the thing that you least want to do is the thing you know most need to do next.
Totally.
Like that's your next assignment, is the thing you don't want to do. It's not the thing that's going to be easy to do.
Love it. All right, let's move on to number 6.
Yeah, number 6. The step there is you have to know that joy requires pain. The more that I researched, I discovered that only a painless world would birth joyless lives. So a painless world would birth joyless lives. You could never have joy in a world without pain. There's something pent up in the idea of pain, of discomfort. Go back to Lewis on that. He says that Lewis is a megaphone. He says that pain is a megaphone that God uses to rouse the deaf world. Like, pain is the thing that gets you to kind of pay attention to whatever's speaking to you in your life. And pain is necessary. There's also something in the pain that tells you that there's hope for something better. Right.
Mm.
So if you always sort of live a mediocre life that we talked about a second, a comfortable life without any pain, you would never really know what joy is. Like, what's joy? You would just have a little bit of pleasure, a little bit of, some giggles. No, well, it's the pain and it's the height and the joy that happens. So as the pain increases into the depths, the joy increases into the heights, and you're able to live not only a more dynamic life, but you're also able to live a life of proper perspective. You can love, you can take care of the people that have deeper pain, the more deeper pain that you experience. You can also appreciate the heights of joy and celebrate with people more fulfilling. You have a more fulfilling life if you understand the heights of joy and the depths of pain. And so those two, they come as a pair, but a painless world would only birth joyless lives. That's sort of the principle there.
Yeah, I once again I agree. Like the pain of, I mean, I've got so many examples, but I'm just going to use this last example. Like so much goes into, and not it's not just the physical pain, but I guess the uncomfort, right? The uncomfortable pain that you may go through. Physical for sure is going to give you. A lot of people shy away from that. I don't want to go through that. It's uncomfortable. I don't know if I'm going to. I'm afraid. The fear. And so they don't want to have to go through that. I got to do my burpees. I don't know if I want to do that workout. Is there anything easier that I can do? No, I always say, no, there's nothing easier. You just got to do burpees. You're just going to have to do them, a variation of them, but no, you're doing burpees. Like there's no easy. You're not trying to make the exercise easier. You're trying to make yourself better. And with that comes some specific level of pain. But in the end, you'll be able to appreciate the joy that came from that journey, right? You'll remember, oh man, I remember how painful it was to go through these things, but here I am on the other side. And now it's easier to empathize with other people who are going through the same pain or something similar, right? And really be able to help those people get through what they're going through, because you understand the pain that they're going in, whatever level that
Yeah.
is.
All right. So you're still dealing with back pain, right?
Yeah, but yeah. So this past weekend I had a past weekend a back procedure, and like it was night and day. Like I know, like living with the pain of what I've had for 5-6 years has been insane. I remember all of the different times where I've struggled and what have you. This last back procedure, I came out and I was feeling amazing. I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, oh my God, right? Like, I can't believe it. So I understand that I have so much more appreciation for this whole journey that I've been on. Not saying that I'm not going to have back pain in the future, but man, it's so much better.
Yeah, it's like I imagine it's like kind of like that feeling where you've been sick, like you're sick as a dog for a couple of days, and the next day you wake up and you feel okay. You eat that first meal, and you're like, hey, this is pretty. I never really appreciated this.
Totally. Totally. Just walking to the garbage without having pain, standing up straight as opposed to, keeling over, being able to run, or jog as opposed to not even be able to walk fast. Like all of those things I have a joy today from that. All right, let's move on to 7.
Yeah, step 7 is a really interesting one. This is a step that's paradoxical. I'm going to go back to Lewis again on this. I got to go
Sure.
back one more time.
Let's go.
He said that nothing that you have not given away will ever really be yours. So nothing that you have not given away will ever really be yours. We see this principle all over the place if we pay attention. The wealthy man, whoever wants to kind of keep track with inflation, doesn't lose all his money in inflation, has to eventually give up some of his money to an investor. I mean, to an entrepreneur who's willing to go and reinvest that with hopes of keeping up with inflation. Because if he doesn't do that, inflation's just going to eat away everything he's got. He can't keep what he's got unless he gives it away first.
100%.
It's also the same story of every man that ever wants any fruit or any shade from a tree. He's got to plant the seed in the ground, and the seed's got to die in the ground if the man's ever to hope to have shade. He's got to give the seed away. It happens over and over again in life. In fact, if I ever want to live in a relationship of love, I have to first give love away. In fact, if I ever really want to have a life of relevance and life of meaning, I have to give my life away first in order to ever live one. A life not given away is just a death.
Right.
That's sort of the essence. And that's the paradoxical thing. A life not given away is just a death. If you don't give your life away to somebody else or to a group of other people, man, you're just dying. Like you're as good as dead. You're as good as dead. And so nothing that you've not given away will ever really be yours. That's like if you're going to build your life around something, man, that's a hard truth to embrace. But if you can embrace it, man, you're gonna live forever. You're gonna feel good doing it.
Yeah, I'm in recovery, like, recovery, you're in recovery for the rest of your life, right? So, one of the principles is, we got to give it away, right? We don't keep it. We got to keep giving it away, keep giving like through sponsorship, that sort of thing. And it's the same thing. It's so funny because even with, a lot of times, I have a couple of businesses, right? One is business coaching, helping people with memberships. And I'm part of a membership site of membership owners. So a lot of people ask questions all the time. And I will take time because I love it. I understand this principle of giving it away. By the way, I totally understand the principle and how powerful it is. So I just go in there and I'll shoot a video, an hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and answer everyone's questions. Like I do that all the time. I go in, I don't get paid for it. I don't want to get paid for it. That's not what I'm doing it. It's giving away the knowledge that I have in order for them to get over whatever that hump is. And I understand that. And my wife and other people think I'm like crazy. It's like, well, how much did they pay for it? Nothing. Why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep wasting your time? I'm not wasting my time. I'm just like, I know in here, it's very difficult for people to understand that. Very, very difficult. But I do understand. And that has brought fruit. I'm now the keynote speaker at the conference this year. I've had a couple of coaching clients come out of that, but that's not what I'm doing it for. I like helping people. I like giving away my knowledge and whatever. And same thing with the Over 40 Alpha Brotherhood and the coaching that I do. Not saying that I do it 100% and like I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm understanding these steps and these principles to life. And I understand that when I apply these principles is why good things are happening throughout the life. And when I try to sneak away and try to stay comfort, it's like, no, man, that's not what we're here for. Remember, we're on this journey. We're not on your journey. We're on this journey. So even when we fall, even when we fail or slip or what have you, if you still have that focus, you can slowly get put back on a path, which is really important. And this one is huge. It's monumental. I think number 7 for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a game changer.
Yes.
If you can believe in a paradox like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's very difficult because people want that dopamine. People don't want the pain and they don't want to help. All right. Next up, number 8.
Number 8 is act like you will live forever, but move like all you have is today. So act like you will live forever, but move like all you have is today. This is a little bit kind of like what we talked about in the beginning of the conversation, is we have to decide whether the people that are around us, ourselves included, are we more of a body or a soul? I think that I'm probably a soul that just happens to have a body. And so I'm going to live like that. Like I have, I'm either heading one way or the other every day. Like every move that I take, I'm either heading, a step closer to heaven or a step closer to hell. Like I'm either becoming a devil or an angel. Like there's no sideways steps. You go to the gym. Like either you're gonna have a good day or bad day. Either you're gonna leave it all on the table. You're gonna move ahead, or you're gonna give up, and you're gonna teach yourself that giving up is a viable option. Like it's one of the two things. There are no sideways steps in life, and so we have to figure out what trajectory are we going to go on. This is all kind of tied up with step number 2 as well. Aim high, aiming low is the only sin. There's only one or two options there. But the idea that decision, every decision, is predicated on a person, ourselves, that's going to live forever, because that's going to be what we presuppose, that we're going to live forever, and that this trajectory is going to continue forever, ever. And that's how we get it. That's how we get it work. But again, that sort of wisest mind that looks to the most distant future, the wisest mind that sort of looks to the most distant wisdom of the past, who's acting in the present. We have to know that like today is the only thing that we have. You better make the most of today, or you're going to have nothing forever. Like that today's your only chance.
Carpe diem, man. You gotta action. I like that action. It's all about action. I think in the end, it's like taking those actionable steps that'll get you closer to where you want to be, and just like not staying in that comfort, not staying in the mediocrity, not doing anything. I think it's really important. But act like you will live forever. Yes.
Yeah. And let me just add something there too, Funk, real quick, if you don't mind. So the idea that there's a lot of men that made lots of mistakes in their past. I'm one of them. Like I make mistakes all the time. And what I discovered through my research was that it's possible. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's possible that one like perfect today, like one act of just sort of outright goodness and beauty and trust, that sort of that big step of faith, whether it be to go ask that woman out that you've never asked a woman out before, or to adopt that child, or whatever it might be, that there's one big act that you can take in a single day that will redeem all your yesterdays. That it's possible. It only takes one day, and a holy day will redeem and will really resurrect all your yesterdays. But you gotta put that one day together. Life is just a string of failures with the occasional moment of perfection. That's all that life is, and it only happens in today.
Love it. Okay, let's wrap this up with step number 9.
Okay. So this is the grand strategy. This is the grand strategy that ties everything together. These steps compound. They compound. And so Step number 9 is seek beauty and you may find truth. Seek beauty and you may find truth. This is the strategy for life, believe it or not. Life is lived in a story. And if you want to be a relevant life, you want to have you want to be a man of meaning, people that have endurance, where we talk about the idea that your life is pointed at something indestructible. It's the object of your pursuit that gives the legitimacy and the relevance and the indestructibility to the pursuit.
Right.
Um, and so and so if we can figure out a way to live our lives where we're focused on creating a beautiful story that our kids, our grandkids, the people, our friends would want to tell about us long after we're gone, that's how we know that we're sort of moving towards a truer type of relevance. When we don't know what to do, when you don't know what decision to make, always make the decision that would create the most beautiful story. It's usually the deepest pain or the highest joy. It's usually the difficult thing that you don't want to do. It's the narrow path when the wide path is right there in front of you. It's the idea that there's something intrinsic in that life, and that life of pain, that world of pain. The people that would invent their own worlds would say that if I were God, I'd have a world where there was no childhood cancer, or there's no sickness, there was no evil there. But what you do in a world like that, if that world actually came to be, you would have a world without any childhood doctors. You would have a world without any brave men that are willing to go attack the evil. You would have a sort of this monotonous type of world, and it would just be a fake, false world. But the presence of those doctors who are able to heal is what makes the world just a little bit more beautiful. So you see what I'm teasing out here? It's that a healed man is more perfect than a perfect man that never needs to be healed. A redeemed man is more perfect than a perfect man who never needs to be redeemed. We begin to see this idea that the good invading the evil is better than just a good that just existed by itself. Because it's the act of the invasion, it's the act of the healing, it's the act of the redemption, it's the act of the forgiving the other man that offended you that brings the beauty in the world and brings the beauty in our story. And that's how you begin to live a beautiful life. And that's the decision matrix that you use to make decisions about how you're going to take one step versus another. You focus on beauty, and the way that the beauty invades is in a very interesting way. And it also ties it back to relevance. And I'm gonna leave this step at this.
Sure.
No one's gonna give a damn about your life unless you heighten the love or defeat it in evil. No one's gonna give a damn about your life in 100 years or 1,000 years unless you heighten the love or defeat it in evil. Those are your only two options.
Right.
Those are your only two options. But either way, they're both beautiful moves. They're both beautiful moves. And through those beautiful moves, you can then make a decision about how you're going to live your life in a truer fashion and make truer decisions as you move forward, focused on beauty, focused on that most distant, most valuable reward.
That's amazing, Rick. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. That's I love everything. I love the 9 steps. And where can you just go over those 9 steps quickly once again? Just go over the 9 steps again. That way we have it.
Step 1 is choose one worthy enemy. Step 2 is aim high because aiming low is the only sin. Step 3 is pick a master or one will be thrust upon you. Step 4, trust revelation requires sacrifice. Step 5 is you have to embrace the unknown. Step 6, no joy requires pain. Step 7, give away what you want to keep. Step 8 is act like you will live forever, but move like all you have is today. And step 9 is seek beauty and you may find truth.
Yes, I love those. I love all these steps. I think I'm going to definitely get my hands on the book. I know you sent me a copy, or sent me the PDF, but I got to definitely dive into it. I'm going away for 2 weeks, so I'm going to spend some time diving into this book. Where can everyone get the book and how can people connect with you?
So beginning July 5th, you can find the book on Amazon, Walmart. In fact, you can actually go pre-order right now, so it'll show up on your door on July 5th. But this is a copy of the book,
Wow.
9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. Dr. Ben Carson sort of has the headline blurb on it. He calls it triumphantly hopeful. Triumphantly hopeful. One of the most confident men, by the way, who's ever lived. I think he's got 60 honorary doctorates. So that's the best place to do it. After July 5th, they'll ship those books out to you. But you go to Amazon and pre-order it. That'd be great. My website is rickwalker.com, and I send out an email every other week, sort of 3, 2, 1. I'm going to give you 3 bangers, so 3 of the quotes that I've been dropping along the way, three bangers. I'm going to give you two videos. One's instruction, and the other is sort of an interview style like this.
Right.
And I'll give you one thing, which will either be like a solid reflection, like I did a reflection on the Tao Te Ching last week,
Yeah.
or it'll be a sort of an essay about a sort of a massively big idea that you can just consider. But and that newsletter is free at rickwalker.com.
That's amazing, Rick. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Guys, get your hands on the 9 steps. Pre-order it now. The link will be somewhere in this video. The link will be in the description. And get your hands on some incredible information to help you live a life with purpose and help you build a life of meaning. Thanks so much, Rick, and talk to you soon.
Appreciate you.